questions or observations? Andy.
Thanks very much, Qiyong, for a great presentation. I wanted to ask you about this the Chinese concept of eco-civilization, which I know that the Chinese government is working on quite hard. And I wonder to what extent you see this working consistently with the concepts that you've advanced around the co-benefits of a low-carbon economy and the benefits of green space access and so on. Is this all being brought together in a kind of coherent way?
Thank you very much. This is a very good question. This is also what we want to do this project. During the project, we invited almost all the relevant sectors, especially for the climate policy making. For example, for the National Reform Commission, they are the key sectors to develop the national policy for the climate change. And also we invited the National Health and Family Planning. They are responsible for the health policy. And also we invited the Environment Protection Bureaus and also the meteorological bureaus. All the different sectors come together to do this project. This is a very good communication. So based on this, and they have a lot of gains from these two projects. And as you know, for China, we have the 5 years plan. 5 years plan. The new 5 years plan, they absorbed a lot of fundings from our projects. And also there's also some operational guidelines, and especially for the health promotion. Now the health promotion integrated into the climate change and air pollution is the key components for the health. There's also some benefits from these projects. We developed a very strong research teams. These teams integrated is multidisciplinary. Multidisciplinary, for example, our teams covered the universities, several universities, Chinese Academy of Sciences, and the Chinese Academy of Environment Sciences, and also the other key research facilities. And also this process need a lot of integrated data and the collection from different sector of the governments. So I think this is very good process. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Dr. Farrer.
Yeah, thanks very much. I was at President Xi's speech at the World Economic Forum in January in Davos, and it was a remarkable speech to hear from a Chinese leader making a pitch for a different role in the world. To what extent is China, through some major initiatives which are going to come out, the Belt and Road Initiative, for instance, going to ensure that those climate change positive things are pushed through in every single bit of Chinese policies?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I'm not very familiar with the policies, especially for the climate change policies, because my research focuses on climate change and health. Because of my project, I also learned some of them. For example, in China, the national climate change policy is quite powerful, with a lot of low carbon transition, such as the energy. The energy now is coal is minimized. as you know, before this, coal is the main energy resources. Now is less and less. And also because of the carbon dioxide sector emission, carbon emission, we got a very strict policy with the, we have the, how to say in English is so every local government or central government, local government, and every city or region, they got indicators. They have to fulfill this based on this. A lot of the high consumption of the energy enterprises closed down. For example, especially for the plant, steel plant, and also some of the power plants. Some of the power plant is closed because of its high pollution and high energy consumption. Yeah, consumption. So for some central government is very powerful, but there's also some problems. The problem is the imbalance in China. As you know, in East China is developed, and then in Central and West China is developing and developed. So there will be a problem. This the central government have to solve the problem because they have the very big pressure for the local development. So the central government provides the subsidies for the developing area, and the some of the enterprises. Yes. Yeah, a lot. Low carbon transition is powerful, but it's not easy. Yeah. So.
But I was really asking more about, as China plays a different role in the world, and its investments in sub-Saharan Africa, its investments in the Road and Belt Initiative, how does it plan to use its voice to ensure that not just on an internal Chinese basis, where you've made great advances, but that your voice plays out on the international stage as well?
Yes. Yeah, this is also a question. I try to answer your question. Okay. The first is, as you know, China is the biggest developing country. Now a lot of countries they look at China. They want to learn from China. So this will be a good model for them to learn from. Now is the stage, so to keep balance between the economic development and the social development. So China now is, especially during the last 5 years, we promote eco-civilization. Eco-civilization as the national policy. Its core is to protect the ecosystem, to sustain the development of economy, social, and human living, how to say in Chinese? Human well-being, yeah, human well-being. So it will I think it will promote the developing countries to keep on track for the air pollution, climate change, and development. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
My question follows on that, but first I want to say that was a really interesting talk to see all the data there. I really appreciated seeing it together. I work closely with colleagues in the power sector in China at Chongqing and at North China Power University and at Tsinghua on doing comparative models on the decarbonization path and the costs in member countries, China, United States, Mexico, where we look at how quickly can we introduce electric vehicles, how quickly can we connect the many wind turbines, for example, that are built in China that are not yet on the grid, but are built. And so by some estimates, even 25% of the massive fleet of wind turbines you have are not yet connected. And so when Mr. Trump chose to withdraw the US from the Paris Climate Accord, very soon after China announced this $300 billion additional investment, many people in the West said, oh, this is like ceding the leadership to China, which is you sort of in the question before. Mine is a little in the reverse. My colleagues in China in the power sector are very worried that even though China is a very strong central government, that not having that direct competitor from the US may slow the process. Do you think that in health, the health problems are severe enough in China that that won't happen? Or do you think that without the pressure from other countries that you will not see slowing? Because in the power sector, we're already worried that some transmission projects might go slower than we were hoping for to decarbonize China.
Sorry, I cannot fully understand.
It was a little, I apologize, it was a little complex. I think is that we certainly think that in research, healthy competition is good.
Mm-hmm.
And one element coming out of the Obama-Xi summit in 2014 was, with different targets, the US and China were cooperating to compete. We're both moving ahead quite aggressively, and that one could push the other. Some of my colleagues in the energy sector in China are worried that with the US in this period of insanity, that there may be less pressure to keep the hardest policies in place in China.
Okay, so I cannot fully understand your question. I think for China, it's also face a lot of challenges, such as as you mentioned, the energy. The energy, clean energy policy in China is also cause a problem, such as I mentioned that in some provinces, maybe it's okay, maybe some provinces, it's based on the energy, the traditional energy. It's a big problem for their development. That's why the central government provides subsidies for them. You have to fulfill this. The central government will provide to support for your loss. Yeah, and but this is not sustainable. I think you're right. We also worry about this. It's not if it's a short term, it's okay. If it's a long term, we cannot solve the problem. It will really cause a concern for the local government and the local communities. Yes, and but don't worry too much. I think the energy, such as the solar and some other clean energy, is developing much faster. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Can I could perhaps finesse the question? I mean, you shouldn't be surprised by these questions, by the way. So it's all in academic it's a concern. So the internal demand might continue despite the weakening of competition elsewhere. But do you think there's any risk, in your judgment, as a scholar, not as a citizen, of the urgency of the matter being released when it comes to foreign investment in, say, Africa or development projects elsewhere? That's where the competition looms most large, because countries are vying for influence in various continents, and if one takes off the brake, then the other might too. Do you have any misgivings in the lack of competition from the United States, let us say, just as an example, of China's investment abroad being less green than you were painting now.
Okay, so sorry, I cannot fully understand your question really, because this is beyond my research
Fair enough.
field.
fine.
I'm a public health person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Not at all. I'm sorry,
you very
your next door neighbor had a question, Dr. Cummins. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Qiyong. An excellent presentation. A question for you on the research agenda you showed in one of your early slides, and in particular with respect to behavioral science research. China's had extraordinary leaps in prosperity in recent decades, leading to increasing appetites nationally for animal protein in the diets, for motor vehicles to travel, for appliances in homes, and so on. So you're faced with a different kind of a challenge than we face, say, in the US or in Europe, the challenge of increasing public appetites for energy-intensive, resource-intensive lifestyles. Is there any interest in research in the CDC or elsewhere on behavioral change, on how to understand people's consumer tastes and on how possibly to change those?
Okay, thank you. In fact, there's not enough research for the behavior change, but there's really several researches for this. For example, my research is for the behavior, and also there's some behavior for the food and nutrition, and there also behavior for the some infectious disease, such as the HIV/AIDS, and such as the respiratory disease, and some vector-borne disease. But it's not sufficient. We benefit from this disease, but this research. But we also need more research for this. As you know, behavior change is much more complex. Yeah, we need more multi-sectoral or transdisciplinary research. It is not enough. We cannot do it by ourselves. We need to work with other disciplinary and other sectors, such as the social, disciplinary, and also the other, maybe psychology, and some others. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
As you can see, I'm not Chinese, but I have spent the last 20 years living in Asia, and just to answer the question, not from an energy perspective, but from a broader, and certainly from a public health perspective, and a sense of competition that you talk about, I've seen absolutely no question that China thinks that it's going to decrease its investment in all sorts of angles of research, just because potentially at the moment the US may be moving in a different direction. If anything, I can only see that increasing from the fields I see.
Different story in energy.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.